Hello and welcome to the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. Coming up in this week's episode, we're going to visit with Richmond Hill head coach Matt LeZotte. His Wildcats coming off a huge 24-20 win over Camden County last Friday night, and now they are 2-0 in Region 1 6A, perhaps set up to make the playoffs after missing two of the last 3 years. And so they've got 3 huge games coming up left on their regular season schedule. We'll talk about all that and more with Matt LeZotte. Also get to know him a little bit better. He was a 3-year starting quarterback for James Madison, and he's had a pretty good run here in the state of Georgia, first at Aquinas and now with Richmond Hill. And so we'll get all the latest on Matt LeZotte and his Richmond Hill Wildcats coming up here in this episode. Also going to visit with Stephenson defensive end Troy Stiggers. He committed to Ohio University last week, and I think he's a real sleeper in this class of 2026. Big defensive ends, put up some big numbers with the Stephenson Jaguars this season, and we'll talk to him about his team and also his decision to commit to the Bobcats, and we'll fill you in on all the other recruiting news. So many commitments and decommitments coming in over the weekend, so we'll fill you in on all that. Plus, as always, I'll name my players of the week, so stick around for that as well. And we'll get you ready for the GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia this coming Friday night. Of course, this past Friday night we had Buford's 34-3 win over Collins Hill as they dominated that game. But we'll look ahead to this Friday night. Great region matchup coming up in 5A as the defending state champions and third-ranked Milton Eagles play host to the fourth-ranked Gainesville Red Elephants. Going to be a huge game in the region standings, also in the state championship picture as well. And both these teams are loaded with college prospects. Gainesville, of course, bouncing back after last year's 7-4 disappointment, and they got knocked out in the first round. So they got a chance to win the region championship this year. They got to beat Milton in all likelihood in order for that to happen. And we'll have that game for you coming up on Friday night at 7:30 on GPB. So join me along with Wayne Gandy and John Nelson and our entire GPB Emmy Award-winning team there at the Eagles Nest in Milton, Georgia on Friday night at 7:30. Now, before we get to all of that, got some big news today, and I'm recording this podcast on Monday. So big news coming down today. I'm so pumped and excited about this big news. The Georgia High School Association historic vote today, and it was almost unanimous, 66-1, I believe the executive committee voted, to do away with the predetermined brackets in all their bracket sports. Any sport that plays with brackets in the playoffs to determine the championship. Of course, that includes football, but also basketball and soccer and baseball and all the bracket sports, softball. They're going to do away with the predetermined brackets, and they're going to go to a seeding system. They're going to seed the teams 1 through 32, regardless of region finish. And they're going to fill out the bracket that way. So the number 1 team in the bracket is going to play the number 32 team in the bracket in the first round of the playoffs, and so on and so forth until you get down to 16 versus 17. That'll be a first-round matchup. And they did this, and I'm so excited about it because I have if you've listened to me over the years or watched me over the years, you know that I have been a proponent of the seeded playoff system to do away with the predetermined brackets, which I think create disproportionate matchups sometimes in the playoffs in the first and second round. You get matchups that are quarterfinal caliber matchups in the first round. You get state championship type matchups in the second round, and this shouldn't be. And as Dr. Scott, the executive director, pointed out in his statement after that vote, he said, look, our goal is to get the best 8 teams in the quarterfinals, the best 4 teams in the semifinals, and of course the best 2 teams in the finals. And I think by seeding the playoffs, they do this. So the one concern that people had, of course, were protecting region champions, and they've done this. If you're a region champion, one of the 8 region champions, you're guaranteed a top 16 seed, which means in the first round you get a home playoff game. And I think I really think that's really all you need. In the past, the predetermined bracket guaranteed that a region champion, if they won the first round, they got a second round home playoff game too. I think that's a little bit too much. I don't think that's necessary. If you look at other playoff formats, college football, NBA, any of them, I mean, you're not guaranteed beyond that first round. So, I think that it's a good compromise there. That the region champions will get a first round playoff game, and I think it's going to create a lot of interesting matchups too. So often in the predetermined bracket era, we would have teams meeting in the playoffs every year, all the time. And I think this is going to create a more diverse playoff field where you're going to have teams meeting that have maybe never played before in the playoffs. I think it's going to create more interest. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. For instance, I remember a few years ago, Parkview and Roswell. Back when Parkview was a state power, Roswell seemed to play them every year in the second round. And Roswell had really good teams. But this is when Parkview was going through their 3 straight state championships, and Roswell could never get beyond them because the predetermined bracket, they had to play them every year, and they always got knocked out in the second round, which I thought was highly unfair. So now with the seeded playoff bracket, had they had that in place back then, that may or may not have happened. Probably would not have happened every year because of the seeds. So that's going to be great. I think the other thing it's also going to do is it's going to help in the regular season as well. So teams will be rewarded for, playing good teams in the non-region. Right now, those non-region games, and teams have as many as 5 or 6 of them the way the regions are set up, are really just preseason. They're exhibition games. They don't count for anything. But now, once you go to this power ranking format, they will count. So you will be rewarded for playing tougher teams in the non-region, much like they're doing in college football now with, the strength of schedule. So I think all the way around, it's a win-win. I'm sure there'll be people that don't like it. I love it. So I'm very excited about this historic vote. And I congratulate the Georgia High School Association for doing it. So look forward to that. That's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen until next year, but really excited about the future of that and what the seeded playoffs. And you know what? You can see it already. You can go on the Georgia High School Association website, and off on the right hand, on the front page, they've got what they call the postseason rankings. And you can click on them and you can see what the playoffs would look like right now. You can see, for instance, in Region 1, 6A, they would be the biggest winners. All 6 of their teams would qualify for the playoffs, and 5 of them would have first-round games. So they would be huge winners in this, whereas in the past, the best they would get is 2 home games in the first round. They would have as many as 5 home games in the first round. So, and there's a lot of teams, and you'll hear Coach Matt LeZotte. We'll talk about it too. So you'll hear his opinion about it. He's obviously very excited about it. So that's coming up here on the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. The other news, not good news. In fact, we have some not so good news, and we have some really somber news to share before we kind of get into the meat of the show here. For Colquitt County, their 4-star running back, Jae Lamar, he's rated as high as the number 11 running back in the country and committed to the Georgia Bulldogs. He's no longer part of the program. This is a young man that, by his own admission, he's admitted he's gotten into trouble in the past, and sounds like he's maybe in some trouble again. I don't know what it is. Maybe, hopefully it's just team rules kind of thing. But he's been dismissed from the program, or at least he's no longer part of the program. I don't want to put words on anybody's mouth. Sean Calhoun just says he's no longer part of the program. So maybe things can be resolved, or, if they can't be resolved, hopefully they're not so bad that it, derails his future in football, because he's a fantastic player, obviously. He's rated as high as number 11 in the country. He's played in 18 career games with the Packers, close to 1,500 yards rushing, 25 touchdowns. So I hate it for everybody involved. I hate it for Jae Lamar. I hate it for Colquitt County because they were depending on him. But they won without him this past Friday night. Obviously, they're a better team with him. But a lot of times teams rally around this kind of thing. When something like this happens, sometimes it's good for the team. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But that's bad news. Jae Lamar no longer part of the Colquitt County Packers football program as of today. The other news is just somber. And, you don't want to talk about it, but you got to talk about it. Chattahoochee County coach Mike Nash passed away over the weekend. He had emergency surgery. From what I can understand, he had some liver problems, had to have emergency surgery, and he passed away during that surgery. He was just 51 years old. Former Dunwoody coach. I just hate this. It's terrible news. He had just gone to Chattahoochee County this year, getting away from the city and moving to the country kind of thing. And I was excited for him about that. I met him a couple of years ago, just a Superman, and he kind of rebuilt that Wildcats program. Dunwoody won a state championship in 1993 and then kind of fell on hard times. And then they brought him in over a decade ago, and he kind of rebuilt that program. He built the Junior Wildcats program, kind of built a base. Every program's got to have that junior program, and he rebuilt that. And it was a real family affair with him. I think his son-in-law was on his coaching staff. His wife and his daughter were very involved in the program. He told me, they would serve water on the sideline to the players. They would do the laundry. And he was just a super guy. He really poured his heart and his soul into that Dunwoody program. He's a guy that came to the coaching profession a little bit later than everybody else. He had been in the construction business and then, got to that point in his life and said, you know what, I want to coach. This is what I always wanted to do. And Dunwoody gave him a chance, and he really did a good job of that Dunwoody program. Finally got to the playoffs a couple of years ago, and Matt Schmitz, who had been his OC, took over. He's now the head coach there at Dunwoody after Michael left for Chattahoochee County. But just sad news that Michael Nash passed away at such a young age. He's 51 years old. Just terrible news. And my prayers go out to, first of all, his family and his friends and all the many players and coaches that he has impacted in his life. So wish his family well as they deal with this very difficult situation and they mourn his loss. So hard to move on from that kind of news, but we will. And we'll start with the players of the week. And my quarterback of the week is Calvin Pittman of McEachern. 13 of 22 passing for 233 yards and a touchdown, plus 7 for 141 rushing and a couple of touchdowns in the Indians' 48-21 win over Harrison. And we're going to see those McEachern Indians in a huge rivalry region battle in just a couple of weeks on GPB. I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag, but we're going to do that. And that's going to be on October 17th, that battle between McEachern and Hillgrove. Running back of the week goes to Javion Williams of Pierce County. 19 carries for 189 yards, 2 touchdowns in the Bears' 34-13 win over Cook. Pierce County now 7-0. That was a big region opening win for them. My wide receiver of the week, as it so often is, when my quarterback of the week and the wide receiver of the week, they always seem to be paired together because stands to figure if the quarterback had a big week passing the ball, somebody had a big week catching the ball, and that was Xavion Harris of McEachern. 7 catches for 153 yards and a touchdown in that Indians win over Harrison. My offensive lineman of the week, Noah Nixon of Buford, 6'3", 285 junior right guard, 2027 3-star with 12 offers, including Georgia Tech. He was big in the Wolves' 34-3 win over Collins Hill on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. And even bigger because in that game they lost their center, Graham Houston, to a knee injury, and hopefully it's not serious. I haven't heard any kind of report on that. Hopefully it's not going to keep him out long. But so Noah had to step up and play even bigger with Graham getting hurt in that ball game. So congratulations to Noah on that. Defense, let's move over to the defensive line. And Colin Davis of Kell, 10 total tackles, 4 TFL, quarterback sack in the Longhorns' weird 3-0 win over Blessed Trinity. I call it weird just because of the score. There was nothing weird about the game. I do know this, that when we were looking at the GPB Sports app after we got done with our game on Friday night at Collins Hill, I was like, what happened in the Kell BT game? And they said it was 3-0. And I said, well, it was a lightning delay? Are they stuck? No, and they're like, no, it's a final. And I thought it had to be a mistake. I mean, games just don't get decided 3-0 anymore. And I know I was reading Georgia High School Football Daily, and they'll lay it out for you. There's just not been many of them. There wasn't any last year, and that was the first 3-0 final this year. So just a weird score, but congratulations to Kell. That's a huge win, and what a performance by their defense led by Colin Davis. My linebackers of the week, plural. My middle linebacker of the week is Jalen Dill of Richmond Hill. Get this line. 21 total tackles, 12 solo, 2 TFL, quarterback sack, 2 quarterback hurries, interception, 2 forced fumbles in the Wildcats' 24-20 win over Camden County. I hope he got an extra slice of pizza for all that work. And we'll be talking to Coach LeZotte about Jalen here in just a few moments. My outside linebacker of the week, Mackenzie Graham of Colquitt County, 15 total tackles, 10 solo, 3 TFL, quarterback sack, forced fumble in the Packers' 18-17 win over Valdosta. My defensive back of the week, Alex Scott of Toombs County, 8 total tackles, including a 99-yard fumble return touchdown in the Bulldogs' 47-20 win over Swainsboro. That was a big win for the defending state champions. My place kicker of the week, Fernando Tavares of Kell. Who else? If you kick the game-winning field goal in a 3-0 win over BT, that's got to be my kicker of the week, right? Tavares, 40-yard field goal with 3:46 left in the game for the only points in the game. He is my place kicker of the week. My kick returner of the week is Anthony Brooks of Hatefield Charter. Punt return touchdown in the fourth quarter tied the game, and then the Hornets would go on to beat Holy Innocents 20-17 in overtime. Brooks also had 2 interceptions, and one of those set up Hatefield's other touchdown in regulation. And my team of the week, that is the Richmond Hill Wildcats, that 24-20 win over Camden County. First time they had ever beaten Camden County there at home in Bryan County. Time now to bring in Richmond Hill coach Matt LeZotte. And coach, thanks a lot for being with us. Congratulations on your 24-20 win over Camden County. That was a really big one for your team. Your guys jumped out to a 17-0 halftime lead and were leading 24-7 heading into that fourth quarter. And you battled in there and stayed in there and hung on for the win.
Well, I tell you, it was a really gutsy performance from our ball club. It was one of the best performances I've seen from players and coaches in preparation for the game, and maybe in my career of coaching. It was tremendous. We had a lot of guys out with injury, but like you said, 24-20. The game wasn't that close. We essentially mathematically eliminated them with 2 minutes left in the game. It's it wasn't really that close. They scored on a final play. We were just trying to make the play go longer to run the clock out and got home with the victory.
Congratulations on that. Your defense came up big for you as it has all year long. You've only given up 74 points in 7 games. Jalen Deal, my linebacker of the week for the entire state. What a huge performance he had. Tell us about Jalen and also what makes you guys so successful on that side of the ball.
Well, the secret weapon is our coaching staff, and it's led by my brother Tony. I am biased, but I'm also realistic. I think he is the best coach in the state of Georgia. He was the Broyles High School Award winner a couple years ago, and but he works well with the co-DC Colin Oliver and everybody else providing game plan and getting these guys ready to go and get on the field. But to talk about Jalen a little bit, Jalen's just a consistent player. He does not say a word. Like literally, he does not talk. He'll smile or he'll be angry by his facial expressions, but you won't ever hear it, right? And when that man crosses over that white line, he is a violent individual, and so he really bought into the game plan this week. It was his best week of preparation, and he was able to see the fruits of his labor, and hopefully that'll pay dividends not just for the rest of this season, but for his senior season coming up.
Well, he had 21 total tackles. He's too busy tackling people to have anything to talk about or say. So I mean, he put in quite an effort on Friday night. You guys are now 2-0, in Region 1 6A, closing in on locking up a playoff berth after missing out 2 of the last 3 years. But you still got a Region 1 schedule gauntlet in front of you. You play at Valdosta this Friday night, then you close out at home against Lowndes in Colquitt County. What's the message to your team, after going down this road last year and not making the playoffs?
Well, it's all about improvement. If everybody wants to win games, everybody wants to make the playoffs. So like that's all good. Uh, but we're more focused on improving than we are anything else. We're not outcome driven. We're process driven at Richmond Hill High School. I can't say that about everybody in this profession, but I can truly say that about us. Um, and the fact that we're doing what we're doing with the kids that we've got right now is crazy. Like when you have 9 starters out and you're still able to beat Camden County, it speaks volumes to the kids, to the preparation. We didn't have a running back Friday night. Our top 2 running backs were down. Our third was already injured, and we didn't have a running back. And so coaches found a way to continue to move the ball, to give opportunities. And the big thing is we're going to focus on improving. We know the gauntlet that's ahead of us. These guys have experienced it. But there's a lot more on the table for these teams that we're playing than there are for us at Richmond Hill. If they we're going to go and we're going to battle. We're going to prepare our kids. We're going to be ready to play. We've done a lot of firsts this season. We won our first region game on the road since joining the highest classification. We beat Camden County for the first time since we've been in the region with them. And so we've had successes, but we start layering them up now, and hopefully, the fruits of our labor. You start to see some being able to take some withdrawals out of this bank that we've been deposited in for a little bit.
Let's talk a little bit about you for a moment. You were a 3-year starting quarterback at James Madison and a member of their 2004 FCS National Championship team. I just called the James Madison Georgia State game over the weekend in Atlanta on ESPN Plus. What a great program they are, and what they continue to do. That goes back to your days with them 20 years ago, and they've just built that as they've gone into FBS. Tell us about your days with the Dukes and how that's impacted your career as a coach.
Well, they built a Walmart in Harrisonburg for the first time, I think, as I was arriving to JMU. And so, my parents, with my roommate Alan Harrison, he's a Oconee County kid. They were the only people tailgating in the parking lots, right? And so, watching that program grow, being part of the 2004 national championship team, being able to watch my brother play. My brother was a 4-time All-American at James Madison. And so, we've got a lot of roots up there, a lot of fond memories, and now I have a former player, Lee Johnson, that's playing for JMU. He's the first player that I've had that's been able to play for the Dukes. And so, it's really fun. They've done a great job. I love Coach Chesney. He came and spoke at our GFCA clinic this past year, and what a charismatic guy. He's full of energy, has tremendous plan. Stepped into a really bad situation roster wise up there, and they were able to fix it. But I tell you what, the time spent there really shaped and molded me into the man that I am. All successes, the failures, the adversity. Um, in life, you're given opportunities where you get to these forks in the road, right? And you can make one decision that could take you down one path, and one that takes you down another. And luckily, I had great guidance from great parents that raised me to be a good decision maker, to try to be as selfless as possible. Even though that's sometimes hard as a young adult, even. And it's I had a bunch of those roads at JMU, and looking back on it, hindsight, I wouldn't change a thing. It was a fantastic opportunity. Um, Got to see my brother play, like I said, and our family shared a lot of experiences there in Harrisonburg, and I forever grateful to Coach Matthews and the staff that was there, and the impact that they had on me, and really kind of encouraging me to take the step to get into coaching.
Yeah, I love what Chesney's done and how he's built that program in this day and age, of course, with transfer portal and a lot of programs in the Sun Belt Conference are, stock up on guys that are coming down from the Power Four level, and he does that too. But by and large, he goes and gets guys from FCS and Division Two, guys that are hungry and are good players, just waiting for an opportunity, and it's paid off well for them. I think they'll end up winning the Sun Belt Conference this year, although they got a big one coming up against Old Dominion in a couple
Yeah.
of weeks. So you're now in your 11th season at Richmond Hill after 4 seasons as a head coach at Aquinas, 2 seasons as an assistant head coach at Wayne County. You took over a program there at Richmond Hill that had been to just 3 playoffs in 29 years, but you've been to the playoffs 7 of the last 10, won a region championship in 2019, got to the state semifinals that year as well. You mentioned reclassification that came in 2022. It's been a lot more difficult for you. Would be difficult for anybody playing in Region 1 6A, which was one of the toughest, if not the toughest region in the entire state, although the folks in Region 2 5A would probably argue with it. Either way, they're both really tough. So how close are you to getting the program back to where you had it 6 years ago?
Well, we're believe it or not, where we have surpassed that tremendously, and it's and again we're not talking about wins and losses, right? Like we played really well in 2019, but as far as resources being allocated, coaching staff, player dedication, all of those years were just building blocks to where we are now. And coming off of last year's 7-3, not making the playoffs, we had a very senior heavy class, and a lot of folks didn't think that we would be very successful here. But it's because we've been putting in the time, the effort to develop these kids, and we've had a pretty good season so far. Now I'm very proud of our guys and what we've done. But the thing is we are writing our history right now, which is so fun.
Yeah.
Like these are the years that they're going to talk about when it comes to Richmond Hill football. It's not going to be in the 90s, early 2000s. It's not going to be that. It's going to be right now. And so we're in a brand new school, brand new stadium facility. You should have seen the 7,000 people that were there Friday night. It was unbelievable. And it's just the place rocks, and it's everything. And so everything that we've done before is really in the rearview mirror. We have our eyes set on bigger goals and bigger prizes. And that's not just our football program. It's our entire athletic department. And the athletic director, Stacy Bennett, has this vision for it. And he and I have been friends for 25 years, and very fortunate that I get to work with him now. And because we want bigger, better things. And so, what an awesome time to be a Wildcat in Richmond Hill. It's really fun. But the kids are buying in, and they're starting to see, hey, we can do this. We can play at this level. So we're going to continue to have our foot on the gas.
Yeah, for the folks who don't know where Richmond Hill is, you're in Bryan County, you're southwest of Savannah, and you're near Fort Stewart. So those are kind of the geographic markers around your program, right?
That's it. People ask me, I'm like, we're about 20 miles south of Savannah, right on 95. So, and military folks, you're like Hunter Airfield and Fort Stewart. We're literally right in the middle of the two. So we have a heavy military population. I think maybe 35% are military population, and so we have a unique demographic, and it's fun. It's a fun place to be.
Let's talk about some of your personnel. We talked about Jalen on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, you got your quarterback, Gunnar Mobley. Great name for a quarterback these days, huh, right? Georgia
Yeah.
quarterback Gunnar Stockton. Senior running back Amir Miller. Junior wide receiver Eli Grant, who also helps you out in the secondary.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. So we've got a lot of guys that are playing both ways. And here lately, like Eli's had probably played more snaps on defense than we had thought back in August. But what a tremendous ball player. And Amir's had an ankle injury that he's coming off of, uh, and re-injured it last week. But he's starting to gain a little ground. Had a really good weekend. But really our offense goes as Gunner goes. Coach Joe Scott, he's our offense coordinator, has done a great job developing our quarterbacks. putting them in a situation to be successful to be the point guard of that offense. And they just do a great job of preparing. The fact that we can get Eli and to play at such a high level on both sides of the ball. He had a tremendous interception Friday night against Camden in the end zone that you would have thought that he was the wide receiver on the play, the way he caught the ball over his shoulder. It was an unbelievable catch. And, he's just playing really well. But we've got about 7 or 8 guys on offense that we can target with the football. We've been able to spread the ball out, and so it's really tough to really hone in where you defend our team because we've got some guys that can make plays at a few different positions, and so it's fun to go out to practice every single day and see who's going to get the hot hand, and our guys understand they're selfless. Obviously they want to catch the ball and they want to run the ball and they want to have all the carries, but they know that sometimes there's another guy that's going to have a hot hand. And so we try to roll with that and see how these guys are playing and how they're feeling on Friday night. And, Friday night, Eli wasn't getting a lot of touches on offense, but man, he was making plays on defense, and so, these guys, if you're a ball player, you're going to play. You're going to make plays when given the opportunity, and that's what I'm most proud of those guys on offense doing.
Defense, I also wanted to mention Corey Sims, who's really having a good season for you as well, a sophomore defensive lineman. I think he's got 9 TFL already.
Yeah, that whole unit in general is just a really awesome group to be around. I mean, they they make you laugh as much as anything out of practice. They just a unique group of guys that plays really hard. They're really tough. But we play 4, 5, 6 deep on the defensive line, and those guys have all been performing at a high level. It's something that we haven't had defensive line production like this since I've been here. And back in 2019, 2020, we had some really good defensive linemen. But as far as negative plays being created, we haven't had the type of output that we have this year, and that attributes to a lot of the success of our second and third level guys because that defensive front's able to get so much pressure and create negative plays on that side of the ball.
As we record this interview, final question to you. They're voting right now, the Georgia High School Association, to change the playoff format, which I think has been in place since the 1920s.
Yeah.
Based on region standings and going to a power rankings seeded format that would seed the teams 1 through 32. This would seem to be a good deal for your team. I checked out the rankings right now. Right now, you'd be the number 12 seed in the state, means you get a home playoff game. All 6 teams in Region 1 would be in the playoffs. 5 of those would have first-round playoff games. I'm guessing that you're in favor of this.
Well, it's the way it should be. Every region in the state, there's a top caliber team in every single region, and most regions have 2 big time players. But you get down to the 3 and 4 seeds, and there's a little bit of a drop off, and there's not in Region 1. There's not in our region. Like you said, we have 6 playoff teams. We had 6 playoff teams last year. I felt like we could have beat half the playoff teams team in the classification last year when we didn't make the playoffs, right? And so it's what needs to happen. There are too many teams that make it by default instead of earning your way into the playoffs.
Yeah, you were 7-3 last year. You were only 7-3 team to get left out of the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. So
in all classifications, right. I believe.
Yes,
so it's just because it's the way that things have been done doesn't mean that it's what we need to do. And so that's kind of the motto that Richmond Hill lives by. We could live in this time and do these things, or we could adapt and grow as a program. And I think the Georgia High School is doing that also.
Well, I hope it works out on the vote, and also hope it works out for you guys this year, that you keep on winning. You got 3 big games coming up, and we'll be watching what Richmond Hill does these next 3 weeks to see if you guys make the playoffs this year here in 2025. Coach, thanks a lot for being with us, and continued success to you and your program.
Appreciate you for having me on. We're really excited about it. It's going to be brutal 3 weeks, but we're built for this. So build the hill.
Like, follow, subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, iHeart, or Apple Podcast. And always great to visit with Coach Matt LeZotte, and best wishes to the Wildcats as they get ready to continue their rugged Region 1 6A schedule. All right, time now to get to the recruiting news. I'm going to start with Troy Stiggers, Stephenson's 6'4", 235-pound senior defensive end. He committed to the Ohio University Bobcats last Thursday over 8+ offers, including Old Dominion and Georgia State. Time now to bring in Stephenson defensive lineman Troy Stiggers. And Troy, thanks a lot for being with us. Congratulations on your team's big 50-18 win over county rival Cedar Grove this past Friday night. You bounced back from that tough 42-41 loss against North Clayton from the week before. What did you see from your Stephenson Jaguars this past week and on Friday night to rebound from that first loss of the season?
I think that we probably went into the week a little bit more serious since we lost by one. So that team was probably one of the best teams we played all year. So it was kind of like a big battle coming back from last week. So we took this week way more serious, way more. Just say we put a lot of time into going into City Grove and trying to beat them.
Yeah, that North Clayton team is playing very well. They're in the midst of their best season in 15 years. It's your first season for you with the Jags after transferring from Parkview. Coach Marcus Jelks has led this Jaguars team to the semifinals last year, the quarterfinals the year before. And your team's 6-1 record right now is better than at any time the last two seasons through 7 games. Can this team make a deep run in the playoffs, you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. I most definitely think we can make it to state.
Well, you got a great shot to do that. I mean, you guys are playing very well right now at 6-1, and still some big games left on your schedule and the region schedule before the state playoffs start. So, your stats through 6 games: 46 total tackles, 6 quarterback sacks, 16 TFL. Are you having the kind of senior season that you envisioned?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially that offseason, I really put a lot of effort into going from Parkview to Stevenson, learning the playbook, learning things that I needed to work on at Stevenson that I didn't do at Parkview.
What are some of the things that you worked on to, enhance your game and get better for your senior season?
At Parkview, I didn't think I had a good first step, and so the coach at Stevenson, Coach Rock, he taught me how to get off that first step fast, how to like I'll say spill block down a little bit more. So some of the stuff I didn't do at Parkview, I transferred it on to Stevenson, and I think that's part of the why I'm having a good season.
Is there anybody in college football or the National Football League that you kind of like to model yourself after, that you'd like to be like that guy? And when you play, I know when I was young, I did the same thing. I always thought, oh, I want to be like this guy. Is there a guy like that for you?
I think Mike Green went to Marshall, then got drafted
Oh,
by
yeah.
Baltimore. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mike Green, what an incredible season he had with Marshall last year, no doubt about it. Your Jaguars defensive line might not only be the best in 3A football, but maybe one of the best defensive lines in the state, regardless of classification, with you, 4-star KJ Green, Sergio Mason, Alterique Smith up front. What makes you guys so good on that defensive line?
I think I really think that most of us combined as a group. So like even off the field, we hang out, do little things to be trying to get close together as like as a D line and as a defensive team on and off the field every day.
It looks like it's working out for you guys very well. You committed to Ohio University last week over Georgia State, Old Dominion, Toledo, among others. What made the Bobcats the right choice for you?
I just think that being there, the atmosphere, I think it was just really great meeting the coaching staff, defensive staff, and Coach Schmidt himself. So I think like being around all them was just felt like a little bit of home because it's not a big city. It's not like a big party. Well, as of what I've seen, it's not a big party school. So I think part of that made it to where I made my final decision to go there.
Athens, Ohio. I've been there. I've called a game there before. So, and it's also the hometown of Joe Burrow. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
Yes, sir.
That Joe Burrow grew up there, played his high school ball, and I think it's a great program to be at. They've had a good season. I think they're 3-3 right now. They're 1-1 in the MAC. I think it's a great choice for you. So, wish you all the success there. What are their plans for you? You're a DN here at Stevenson. Do they plan to continue to use you at DN, or maybe get you bigger and move you inside?
As of right now, so I think that I'm gonna be playing a lot of DN and a lot of defense inside. So I think it's gonna be more of like a DN inside, like D tackle, little special that we got going on.
I got you. So that's what you're doing right now at Stephenson too. You're playing
Yes,
both
sir.
positions. Yeah, being multifunctional on that defensive line, which so many teams like to do now. They like to cross train and make sure everybody can play all the positions on that defensive line. So, what is it about the defensive line position that you like the most?
I just like being physical. So as growing up, I always been a I always been wrestling. So it's kind of like I got older, I feel like defensive line was probably one of the best positions I played, especially getting off of offensive lineman, wrestling with them, trying to get to the running back, quarterback. So I think that was one of the things that made me choose that position.
Are you still wrestling now? Do you play any other
Nah,
sports?
nah. I
Any
used to play basketball, but I ended that last year. So
Why'd you do that?
I just wanted to be dedicated to football.
I got you. Well, it's that time of the year now. It's that time in your life now as a senior, and now you're getting ready to go off to college. Well, I certainly hope you continue to have great success here as a senior. Like to see you guys make a deep run in the state playoffs, and continued success to you, Troy, to your team, you and your family as you guys move on in this next chapter of your life next year and go on to Ohio University.
Thank you.
Great to visit with Troy and certainly wish him the best. The rest of his senior season with the Stephenson Jaguars, and it's good to see Stephenson back on the map under head coach Marcus Jelks after all the great work that Ron Gartrell did there and turned them into a state power. And it looks like Coach Jelks is doing that too now that they've been to the quarterfinals and then the semifinals in back-to-back years. And best of luck to Troy there with the Jaguars this year, and of course as he moves forward with his college football career at Ohio University. Like, follow, and subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on iHeart, listening on Apple. Share it with your high school football friends. Let's get back to the commitments and the decommitments because we got a bunch of them to cover. Jared Doughty of Bannker, 6'5", 300-pound senior, consensus three-star offensive tackle, 2026, committed to Alabama Sunday over 10 other offers, including Georgia, Georgia Tech, and Georgia State. He had been originally committed to the Panthers until early September. Nobody really knew about him. Dale McGee, the Panthers head coach, of course, has a tremendous reputation as a recruiter, does a great job of going out and kind of uncovering these diamonds in the rough, players that nobody really knows about. The problem is once they commit to Georgia State, that kind of raises the red flag for everybody else, and they start looking at him. And that's what happened with Doughty here. I mean, no one really knew about him, and now everybody knows about him, and he's committed to Alabama. So good for him, not so good for Georgia State on that one. Nash Johnson, McEachern, 6'1", 175 junior, three-star cornerback, 2027, committed to Alabama as well. Over 14 other offers, including Georgia Tech and Georgia. Chris Carbon, Hillgrove, 6'3", 230 senior, consensus three-star edge in 2026, decommitted from Georgia Tech. He still has 36 other offers, including Florida State and Mississippi State. So you got a McEachern and you got a Hillgrove back-to-back right there. Look forward to seeing those two teams play in a couple of weeks on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. Believe it or not, another one of those places where, after been calling high school football for 25 years, you'd think I've been everywhere, but I haven't. Never been to Hillgrove to call a game. Look forward to that one. That's going to be a lot of fun. Next one is a big decommitment. Big Cameron McGee of Grayson, 6'4", 315 senior, consensus three-star defensive lineman 2026, decommitted from Arkansas. He still has 23 other offers, including Georgia, SMU, and Purdue. Another decommitment from Arkansas, Ben Mabinga, Buford, 6'5", 255 senior, still has 20-plus offers, including Florida State and NC State. He is a three-star offensive tackle in 2026. And so not unusual that you're seeing this. Of course, Arkansas fired head coach Sam Pittman a couple of weeks ago, and now Bobby Petrino has taken over as the interim head coach. It's not really about Petrino per se. It might be about Petrino, but I doubt it. It's, this is what happens in college football. When a coach gets fired, that's when players start decommitting. It's just a fact of life. And so we've seen that. Probably going to see more of that coming for Arkansas here in the next couple of weeks. Caden Fossing of Gainesville, 6'3", 215 senior, committed to Tulsa over 20 other offers. He's a 3-star edge in 2026. Look forward to seeing Caden and his Gainesville Red Elephant teammates this coming Friday night on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. And let me tell you, if you haven't seen Gainesville yet, this team is stacked. Coach Josh Niblett has a lot of talent on that Gainesville team. It's going to be a heck of a matchup against Milton on Friday night. Really looking forward to that. And the last decision on our list this week is Jermaine Solomon of Marietta, 6'3", 180 senior safety. He committed to Air Force. So congratulations to him. He chose Air Force over his other offer, which was NC Central. And how about hats off to Marietta after going 0-4 in their non-region schedule against, 4 teams that are combined 23-2. So they played a very tough non-region schedule. They have bounced back to go 3-0 in the region. They got a big game coming up against North Cobb this Friday night. And it'll be for not the region championship, but it'll be for the driver's seat in the region. So that should be a fun game as well. Marietta and North Cobb coming up this Friday night. And, just a thought here on Marietta and what we were talking about earlier with the Georgia High School Association decision to seed the teams in the playoffs starting next year. That plan would really benefit a team like Marietta that went 0-4 in their non-region, but against 4 super tough teams. So that non-region schedule, even though they were losses, would be better if you won, but even though they're losses, doesn't kill them, actually helps them when it comes to the seeding. So that's one of the benefits you're going to see from the seeded playoffs going forward. Once again, invite you to join us this Friday night for GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. Going to be a fun matchup as the Milton Eagles, defending 5A state champions, play host to the Gainesville Red Elephants in a really big region matchup. And that's Friday night, 7:30 on GPB from the Eagles Nest in Milton. Join me along with Wayne Gandy, John Nelson, and our Emmy Award-winning GPB team. Look forward to that ball game. Going to be a lot of fun. That's going to wrap things up on the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. Like, follow, subscribe, and share it with your high school football friends.